Welcome to Life-Changing Challengers, the podcast where passion meets purpose. I'm Brad Minus, your host, guiding you through stories of transformation and triumph, from endurance feats to overcoming adversity. Our guests defy the limits and inspire action. Ready to ignite your desire and incinerate your barriers? Join us. Your journey to the extraordinary begins now. And welcome back to another episode of Life-Changing Challengers. As always, I'm your host, Brad Minus, and I am so delighted and extremely honored to have Nicole Harrington on the show today. She is a narrative coach. She's a speaker. She has a certificate from the Health Coach Institute, and we're really excited to hear her story. It's going to be a doozy, ladies and gentlemen. So, Nicole, how you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm doing good.
The privilege and the pleasure is all mine. So as I ask everyone, Nicole, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood? What was the complement of your family, where you grew up, and what was it like to be Nicole as a kid?
Yeah, I started swimming when I was 5, so I was very playful in the water. So I loved swimming. I loved, being in the sun. It wasn't until high school that I really felt like I wasn't good enough swimming. So that did come to play because I was on a very competitive year-round team. But thankfully in high school, I also found water polo, and I was one of the, fastest, just because not everybody was a swimmer on the team. Or maybe even like middle school, I didn't feel good enough as a swimmer. And I was also like in the water like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Those club teams can be, they work hard.
Yeah.
So were your parents supportive?
Yeah, my mom actually was like on the deck with me. She was a stay-at-home mom, so she was very involved in my life and supported it. Also, like we drove. It was like maybe an hour drive to practice to go to North Bay Aquatics, which was is still a good swim team. Like I'm like, changing in the car. So, yeah, I learned how to.
And did you, so you obviously lived an hour away from North Bay. Where did you actually grow up?
No, I live, it's Marin County, so it still is in Marin County, but it was, it was like in the back of Tiburon that was the pool we went to, so it was a little bit farther away. But yeah.
You have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have 2 sisters. One's a little bit older. She's 11 years older than me, and then the other's a few years older than me.
Did they swim as well?
Yes. Jessica, who's a few years older than me, she probably started swimming, and then it became more my thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just a water family.
Yeah, no, my dad swam and my grandpa played water polo, so definitely a water family.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting that you played water polo. That's not like an answer that I get, or like people start swimming and they're doing the laps, they're on swim team, and then all of a sudden they move to water polo. And not to be misogynistic, but definitely women, you don't hear that a lot either. Going from swimming, at least here, you don't see it. So yeah.
Really? Is there a big water polo in Florida?
Not at all. That's what,
really?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, it's like, it's just not a thing. Yeah. And I grew up in the Chicagoland area, and never heard of lacrosse. I mean, I've heard of it because I saw it on TV a couple of times, but like down here, lacrosse is huge. And I didn't know anything about lacrosse. Still don't know that much about it, but it's a cool looking sport. But that's cool. So what would you say you were like in high school?
I kind of floated. Like I had a few groups that I would hang out with. But like I had one best friend, maybe 2. And then yeah, we kind of just like floated around until probably senior year. Then I like hung out with, I had like really smart friends and I was not. I didn't feel like I was really that smart, but like all my friends were like valedictorian level, you know? um, so
If I could fist bump you right now, I would, because I was exactly the same way. All my friends just like that. They were all smart. They were doing physics and stuff. And I was just like, if I was lucky to get through like, trigonometry. And those guys are in physics and they're in calculus and calculus 2 and they're in honors course. And I'm just like skating by. So I get it.
yeah.
Now what they didn't have, what you might have, or what my friends didn't have was street smarts. Like I could get around, right? As an only kid, I was taught the way of the world a little bit more, how things work, why people do things the way they do. So I was able to kind of get around, and I had a lot less fear about talking to adults because I was an only child. So that helped, kind of helped. It became like the street smart thing, They were academics. I was street smart. We all worked together. It was great. So did you go to university, college?
Yeah, I went to a state school near where I grew up. I went to Sonoma State, where I continued swimming. I led the, water polo. It was actually a co-ed water polo team. They had a Division II water polo, girls, women, but I just didn't apply. I don't know. I was more interested in my kinesiology major, which I absolutely loved. I loved every class in that major. It was great. So.
Oh, wow. Kinesiology. That's amazing. That's, basically the study how the body moves. You and I can have long discussions. I love that. So, how'd you do in college? You a pretty good student?
I was good. I mean, I wish that I'd known more about audio listening, because now I'm reading more than I ever have because I'm listening to books. I wish that I'd had that resource in college. Probably would have done better, but yeah, I know. I mean, since I loved every class, it was more of, I was very interested in it, but you have to take all the GEs and stuff too.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and a guy was talking about how important and how valuable, listening has been, because obviously you can, just like a podcast, like you're doing right now, you can listen to it anywhere. You can listen to things anywhere. You can listen to it in the car. You can listen to it on a run. You can listen to it on a walk. You can listen to it while you're in line at the whatever. I don't know. You know what I mean? So you really can listen anywhere. You can't watch video everywhere. You can't watch video in the car, or at least you shouldn't.
Especially if you're driving.
So audio is great. But what was very valuable, what he talked about and his name was Ash. And he said that, well, there's some of the times that what's nice about it is that I could speed it up.
Yes.
So, yes.
I absolutely. I just read The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks.
Yes.
And now I'm just reading it through it again, on double speed. He talks really fast, but I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. And it's really sinking back in.
Yeah.
Love doing that.
I'm not sure about people that talk fast, but people that talk slower, and you're kind of you want to get through it. And especially I think personal development books, you can grasp it. You know what I mean? As long as the speaker isn't Gay Harrington,
Gay Hendricks.
Gay Hendricks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at Harrington. I'm thinking Hendricks. I'm losing it. And it's Sunday, so I'm dreading having to start the week again. But anyway, I was thinking, that if he doesn't speak like him, if you've got a regular, you can get through it and you can still comprehend it, at double speed. And now with Audible,
mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the pitch of the voice. It's not like you're listening to the Chipmunks.
Yeah, that's funny.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you got out of school, what did you end up doing?
Yeah, I was applying for grad school. I wanted to become a physical therapist.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, unfortunately, I never got in. So I actually applied for 6 years in a row. Like I was dedicated. Like when I say I loved all my classes, I really did. So I was like, they're gonna see that I love this. So someone's gonna see. So I applied to a lot of different schools for many years. But so once I stopped applying during that time, I was working customer service jobs. I was also, coaching on the side, the high school water polo team. And once I stopped applying, I was like, okay, Nicole, like, what do you want to do? I really took my time to decide, like, what is my next step? I didn't rush that process or yeah. And that's when I really realized, oh, wait, I've been coaching since I was in high school. This has always been like my side thing. So that's when I joined HCI, Health Coach Institute.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you were using your experience as a swim coach to move into health coaching.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what inspired that? What inspired the idea? Okay, so you moved from, a very data-driven, hands-on, daily practice to these high schoolers, at least during that season, to, more hands-off, more cerebral coaching.
Yeah. Well, I do think that is also in a physical sport. If your body and your mind isn't right, then during game day, you're not going to be peak performance. I mean, I'm sure as an endurance coach, you understand that because to be able to do the endurance, which I was a long distance swimmer too. You know.
Yeah. Oh, no. I don't have a certificate in health coaching, but I do some of it with my clients. The kids, I've got to kind of slip it in.
Yeah. You have to be creative. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You kind of do it, clandestine. You just kind of like feed stuff out there and then hopefully that'll get it. Because if they think that you're lecturing to them, they just shut themselves off. Which is, what are you going to do? Right. But yeah, so there was nothing. Okay. So there was nothing that kind of, led into that. So, all right. So looking through your bio.
Well, I guess, the reason I wanted to do physical therapy was because I felt like there were little signs that you could notice before you got injured or after you got injured. Like it didn't have to be a lifelong sentence. That was really why I wanted to do physical therapy, was because so many people, when they get injured, they're like, it's been a decade and you're still like, oh yeah, I hurt my hip, like you're still telling that story. So that very easily transitioned into exactly what I'm also doing with coaching. It's really the same story.
Nice. Yeah. It's the old dad saying, oh, what's going on with your back? Oh, it's an old football injury. Yeah. So
yeah,
that's the one thing I love about physical therapists as well, is there's an end to it, right? Where chiropractors now are like, they want you to be, they fix the problem, or they at least curb it, or they teach you, ways to keep yourself balanced and adjusted. But it's always better. Hey, make sure you come see me twice a month. And it becomes a form of therapy itself. So even me, right? When I'm on plan, ready for a race, every 2 weeks, chiropractor. The opposite 2 weeks, licensed massage therapist.
That's
right?
great.
But an injury, I go see a physical therapist for a couple of weeks, They give me a plan. They send me, they help me fix the issue. They give me a plan to maintain, and I'm on my merry way. And I think that's the greatest power of a physical therapist. Might not be great for income, but I think it's the greatest power. So I think you're on the right track.
Thank you.
So you look into your bio. I just noticed that it mentions that you had a traumatic event. So I'm going to ask you to tell us that story.
Yeah, I don't really like to talk about the actual event just because it's very personal. Maybe in the future I will.
Okay.
But it just left me where people were telling me like who I am or what I should do. I was very lost after that. It just wasn't aligned with like who I thought I was, if that makes sense. I was depressed. So everyone was like giving me advice and telling me to do things that I didn't want to be doing. And that's where it became an even deeper depression is, because I think we all go through some kind of trauma in our life, so when I look back and what I want to teach from that experience and what I want to learn from that experience is, the lessons that I learned are that there's a reason for every season, that depression is just a warning sign that something is off balance. I was fighting. I just continued fighting with those people who were telling me who I was and what I needed to do. And instead I should have just like asked myself like exactly what I wanted.
Okay. So you took the lessons learned from this event and you turned it into in a way to help people, basically.
Yeah. And it was years that I closed myself off to the world, really. If you were in my life during those years, you would have thought I was like happy-go-lucky, but that's when I was like purposefully learning how to have a bee face. Can I say that word?
Yeah.
Like bee face, like I was like learning how to have a bitch face. Like I was teaching myself how to do that. Like I was, blackout curtains in my room. I was drinking a lot. I was smoking a lot. I was numbing myself because I was in pain.
And a lot of people do that. They move in that direction. Did you know, or did you partake in drinking and some of that stuff in high school?
No, I didn't.
So you didn't even, yeah. So this was something you just, what introduced you to that, to know that would actually like at least numb the pain a little bit?
That's a good question. I don't think I was aware of what I was doing. And I also like didn't think I was doing anything wrong. Like, right? Like, because when I was drinking, like I didn't really feel drunk. Like I didn't actually feel like I was drunk. Just really weird. Like, now I still drink occasionally. And I think like I get like a little bit of a buzz and then it goes away. And then I would just like keep drinking a lot after that, so I wouldn't get an additional buzz. Or like I even surpass, like I just fly past the initial buzz and I'm like blacked out or don't feel drunk, like
Well, I
Um,
mean, that's a great takeaway. So that is for people to
yeah,
think about. You know what I mean? If you're drinking right now, and not right now, but if you find yourself that you're drinking a little bit more than usual, and you really don't feel like it's a big deal, it probably is a big deal.
yeah, yeah,
So that's a huge takeaway for some people to like realize that. Now you got to be honest with yourself. You got to be self-actualized enough to realize that. But that was great. How did you get yourself out of it?
yeah. I think I did have the intention of stopping, like especially smoking, and drinking, but I wanted to quit. Like there was a long period where I was wanting to quit. I just didn't know how, and I was in therapy, like I was getting help, but it was so easy to get. Like I was smoking those little pens.
Yeah.
You just carry that around in your purse, whatever. You have it with you always. It's unfair how easy it is, you know? You can't even smell it. Like, um,
Yeah, because it's vapor. It's just water vapor.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not good. So why I mention that is because it becomes a routine. It's a habit. It's, you wake up and you have a cup of coffee is very similar process. Like, I already knew how to or what I wanted to buy when I went to the store, exactly where it was. Like it would take me 5 minutes, oh yeah, I'll just stop. It's about the routine. It's about how we make it easy it's hard to get out of a routine like that. It really is. So you have to decide for yourself. That's
Yeah. No, and I think that's absolutely 100% correct. You see it all the time, right? You're not going to quit unless you want to quit,
yeah.
right? An addiction, right? If you're addicted, you got to know that you're addicted, and you got to want to not be addicted. I'm not saying that you're addicted. I'm saying that, but it's that same point of view.
Mm-hmm.
You don't put person to rehab. You're going to waste your money if that person doesn't want to get help.
Yes.
Right? So you wanted to quit. What were the actions that you took?
Yeah. Well, I think I finally really aligned with a therapist I had. I mean, everyone was really telling me the same thing. I like to believe, like, we don't need to be taught. We just need to be reminded, and eventually it's going to stick. So, I started just supplementing. Instead of drinking alcohol, I'm drinking bubble water. Instead of, when you first when you first stop, your whole life is revolved around that. It's a very social sometimes. It's, all of your friends are also drinking a lot. All the events that I was going to involved alcohol. Like, so when I stopped, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do. Like, I didn't even know like how to have fun. Like, you have to just relearn that.
Yeah. And did you stop drinking and smoking at the same time, or was it one then the other?
That's a good point. I think I was like drinking more, and then I kind of probably switched to smoking more.
Yeah. So you were using a vape pen, but I know that people that actually smoke cigarettes, sometimes it turns out to be that they don't really have the nicotine addiction that they thought. This is the addiction. Is constant habit of moving, right? So they feel like they got to do this.
Yeah.
You feel like you had that same thing when you wanted to quit smoking. It was about, okay, grab it out of your purse and hold it, and it's just kind of there, and then you have this habit, right?
Yes, I thought about that. The cigarette idea, like, they very much need to go outside. I had this moment where it was like, oh, when you're smoking cigarettes, you have to go outside. You get to take a break, and there's a reason. You're like, oh, I'm just going to grab a cigarette. And then everyone's like, yeah, okay, cool. Like, I can't just be like, hey, you guys, I'm going to go get some alone time because I'm really overwhelmed in this party. Like, I'll be back in 5 minutes. that's not exact. You wouldn't say it like that, but
I don't know why you wouldn't. I'm sorry. I'd be like, hey, you know what? This is a little bit too much stimulus for me. I'm going to walk outside and get a breather.
yeah, I like that.
I've done that. Well, I don't go to parties anymore. I used to do that. I used to be out and go out at night and, and hit the bars, go with my friends and all that. And then I found endurance sports, and the socializing that we used to do at night is like right after a workout, we go to breakfast and we socialize then. It just flipped the script.
That's great.
Yeah.
It becomes a routine.
Yeah. And I didn't realize it, but I didn't here in Florida because it gets so hot during the day that you're starting as early as possible. Getting your workout done as early as possible because it gets so hot. So, by 8:00, you've done a 2-3 hour workout, and now you're with your friends, your training buddies, and you're out at, at some diner somewhere. Yeah. And that was like the fulfillment of going out at night and going to the bars and stuff.
Yes. I like that point actually is the fulfillment. So if you are trying to quit, or even if you're feeling a void of some sort, like, the love language is Gary Chapman. Do you know about that book? It's the 5 love languages.
Right.
That's one way to actually look at it, is like, what is it that you need that you're not getting out of your life, and give it to yourself in a healthy way.
I like it.
Yeah.
Is that eventually what you did, or is that like a hindsight 2020 thing?
No, absolutely. It's what I've done. It's, I believe how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you just focus, I learned that through HCI. If you focus on one area that you're most passionate about. So let's mention like food, like how, like your eating habits. If I used to crave French fries, so that there's something there. If you're craving something, it's for a reason. So how can you give that to yourself in a healthier way? Started taking fish oil. Suddenly I don't crave French fries anymore. If you crave ice cream, yeah, there's all sorts of ways. I actually just printed, I love this sheet from Health Coach Institute. I still have this. Where's my camera? They gave this to me like in an intro video. And so it says like, if you're craving sugary foods, it has different foods you can eat, like broccoli, grapes, fruit, beef, cranberries. That's going to give you the same nutrients you really need from the sugary food, but in a healthy way.
This is a fascinating topic. And
yes,
just kind of like, let's roll into this just a little bit, but then I want to get back to your coaching practice and what you're emphasizing on. But this is a fantastic thing. So, I know a family who, and this is fantastic. I know a family who went completely raw. It started with the mom, and she decided, I'm going to do this raw diet. Now, this is not for everybody, but the science behind it is pretty amazing. So we have, a lining in our stomach, and that lining, and I'm sorry, not in our stomach, and that gets into the intestines. So that lining in our stomach is there as a defense mechanism to trap toxins before they go into the bloodstream, because everything's absorbed into the bloodstream from there. So the lining, if you are having more toxicity, that lining gets thicker. If at the minute that you start to devoid yourself of those toxins, that lining starts to dwindle. Eating raw, meaning, complete, no hormones, no GMOs, no insecticides, no nothing, completely raw, not cooking it. You're not cooking it in oil, which can possibly have some contaminants in it. Then you'll find that lining gets even smaller and smaller. The average person on the SAD diet, we call it the standard American diet, the SAD diet, possibly gets 30% of the nutrition from their food. The other of it, because of that lining is so thick, it gets caught with the toxins and everything. So they're only getting 30%. When this family went on raw, and it was completely raw, they were starting to get 95% of the nutrition. Now, let me give you an example of what that looks like.
Wow.
I had a son who loved to ski. And, winter break, weekends, he'd be out with his buddies on the hill, and they'd be skiing and snowboarding and everything else. Well, every couple hours, his friends were just starving, and because they're burning calories like crazy. Were going into the chalet, and they would get burgers and fries and blah, blah, blah. He would go to these marathon ski sessions with an orange. The orange would satisfy him because that lining wasn't trapping that nutrition. He would get 95%, which is what he needed at that point. Because he got 95% of the nutrition from it.
Yeah.
One more anecdote on that same thing, and this is where you're talking about as far as the cravings go. He broke his leg. The son broke his leg skiing. And because he maintained this raw diet, he started craving like crazy almond milk. And mom made her own. So she basically said that she was buying stock in almonds, because you could, every time that she'd finish a batch, she would have already plowed through it. So turned out that he got his cast off like 3 weeks early because he was craving the calcium and everything from the almond milk, and he was getting it all. So it immediately went into, helping to fix the bone. So he got his cast off like 3 weeks early.
Nice.
Because of that. This is that craving that you're talking about, and a way to fulfill it. But when you crave something, your body literally is craving something that it might be masked as a sweet tooth, it might be masked as something salty, or something savory, but there's something that your body actually needs. And I think that's right to your point.
Yeah. This sheet actually does say almonds help with calcium. So that is right on point with what you just said. So it's in the oily, fatty foods. If you're craving oily, fatty foods, potentially you need calcium. Eat some almonds or cheese, tahini, sesame seeds. I love this topic because it's brought so many ideas up in my head. But do you like animals?
Love animals. I have 7.
So you do? I have 4. That's you're winning.
It's an addiction. It's an addiction to adopting them. That's my problem. I have that addiction. Is there something on the craving sheet that says, "Hey, if you crave cat"?
Well, what I thought of was, how our animals, they only have a few ways to communicate with us, right? Like their ears turning, their whiskers. I even read, which I haven't figured that out yet, but they only have a few ways to actually communicate, and it's the same with our body. So if you're always eating French fries, salty foods, chocolate, that's how it knows to tell you it needs these things. Versus this skier you're speaking of, he's eating all the good things, so he knows healthy ways his body already knows that healthy version of how to get what he needs. Does that make sense? Yeah.
But the interesting part is, it's the lining. It's that thickness lining. So toxicity comes from anything. In the air. The water. You get it from air. You get it from water. You get it from processed foods. You get it from that, and that lining just keeps getting thicker and thicker. And the thicker it is, the less nutrition you're getting. The less nutrition you're getting, the more you want to eat.
Yes.
So the problem with that is that when I've been researching, is that toxicity will alter the feeling of what you need. That's why it's so imperative that people be eating whole foods. The more whole foods you eat, and even if you're going to the grocery store, right? Because not all of us can afford to freaking go completely organic, right? But even if you're just eating and we call it eating on the outside aisles, right? Because most grocery stores, the outside aisles, right? You start out in the fruit and vegetables, move into breads, not breads, dairy, then fish, and then it moves over to, milk, and then finally over to, I don't know, wherever else it is. But most of it is, meat, meat and fish and the butcher and, and all that stuff, is usually on the outside aisles, all the whole foods.
Mm-hmm.
So the more, even if you stick to whole foods and you limit your processed foods, you're gonna decrease that lining at least a little bit more. So hey, your completely raw person might be getting 95%. You could get to the point where you're getting 50-60%, and at least your body's asking for it. And once you're getting 50-60%, there's where and then for those of us that are looking at weight loss, and if you're getting 60% of the nutrition from less meat, from less food, less calories, lose weight.
Yeah. I do think even the way they grow food these days has changed in the last few generations. It used to sit on the vine for longer, so there was more nutrition in the food even. So yeah, there's so much on this topic. So that's why it's just be nice to yourself. Your body is just trying to communicate with you, which is why I like to think of depression as a positive thing. It's a warning sign from our brain. It's saying, Nicole, you got to slow down, because if I start being hard on myself, if I start second guessing myself, if I'm putting too much pressure on myself, if I'm feeling too much fear, it's all a sign of depression, I think. And it's a warning sign that check in with your body. It's all being easy on yourself. It's not easy. Yeah.
That's an interesting takeaway.
Yeah.
Is you're feeling depressed. That means check in with yourself.
Yes.
Check in and make sure you have everything, and to be nice to yourself, like you said.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I've heard a lot of experts talk about a link between depression and food.
Yeah.
Nutrition.
Yeah. I mean, I just said how you do one thing is how you do everything. So I do think everything is related.
Okay.
But
yeah, no. It's interesting. Well, it's serotonin, it's oxytocin, it's all those chemicals which can be altered by the wrong foods.
Yeah.
An abundance of the wrong food.
Well, it can still be a not listening to what your body needs. Those chemicals, as much as I couldn't name off all of those exactly, levels, etc., right? It still is, my body is still communicating with me in some way. And if I'm not listening to it and giving it what it needs, then you're still on the wrong path. You're still depression will come, but still, I still think depression is a positive thing. So it still is listening to what your body needs and giving it to yourself.
Is that a strong tenet in your coaching practice?
Yes, absolutely.
So what do you find, out of the clients that you've been coaching, have you found a common denominator?
Well, I think it has to do with support. All of these categories really is about supporting what you need. We've talked about it with nutrition, with your mind, what are you thinking? How are you speaking to yourself? This is all about supporting your body, making sure your mind and your body are connected. And so supporting when you are more depressed, like how can you support yourself to take some time off or give your body what it needs? That's all about support.
Yeah. Oh no, I get that. My clients are the same way. You know what I mean? It's I think that positive self-talk, positive talk, and then, I always emphasize recovery. And that's obviously more physical side. But I can tell when some of my clients are starting to like roll down a wrong path as far as their mental game is.
Yeah.
When you're on mile 21 of a marathon and everything seems to be breaking down, your self-talk is what's going to get you to the finish line.
Yeah. Love that.
And if it's negative, you're either not going to cross, or you're not going to cross feeling as good as you could.
Mm-hmm.
And what turned out to be a fantastic experience will not be as fantastic as it could have been. So I totally agree with that, with the self-talk. Yeah.
I think I can very much relate depression with that same thing of like having a pain at the end of an event. So I think when we try and pretend like it's not there, we try and just like muscle through and get through it until the end. It's you're giving yourself evidence that those things were not good. Like the evidence is if you see that pain in your hip, which I have had like during an event or something, even on a walk, like, and I see that as a negative, I'm like, oh no, like then I go negative. See it as a positive thing, because if it wasn't there, then potentially you could keep walking, keep doing what you're doing and not recognize it. If you're trying to finish an event, afterwards, you're going to know to protect it afterwards and to baby it a little bit. I always love to baby my injuries. You wouldn't even know to baby it if you weren't feeling that pain.
Yeah, pain is a signal that something's off.
And so is depression.
And depression is literally pain. So that all rings back, because you were talking about muscling through it and everything else. That goes right back to you talking about the RBF that you had while you were going through depression. RBF. Oh, that's resting bitch face, by the way.
Oh, that would be better.
So you're talking about that, you had that, and that was your mask. That was you muscling through.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely agree.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just because I didn't know how to react in the moment. It's about being present. I absolutely feel now. It's about, for me, it was about like, can I react instead of having my RBF? Like, how can I react authentically in this moment and show a little bit that I'm pissed that this person's being mean, instead of just like trying to show it on my face, like. Yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Same face as you saw before you insulted me as after. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. So you just signed up for like a really bridge to bridge race in San Francisco?
That's what they call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
Oh, no, wait. No, I don't think it's bridge to bridge. It's swimming under the Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not bridge to bridge. Oh, it's the Golden Gate Swim. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Bridge to bridge. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Is this something that you've been wanting to do? You said that, you were excited about it. There's a story behind it. I want to hear about
it. Yeah. I actually didn't want to do this until, let's see. So actually it was last Sunday. Today's Sunday, right? Last Sunday, I went tubing for the first time with some friends down the Russian River, and it was our first time, all of our first time. I went without a tube. And we didn't know what we were doing. We ended up going 6 miles, and it wasn't moving. So we very much got stuck like in this long period that wasn't moving. It was deep water. It was pretty scary, actually. So we were out there for like 5 hours, 6 miles, right? And I could have looked back and been like, I'm never doing that again. Like, that was so scary. But instead, I'm looking at it like, wow, that was an opportunity to feel confident in my swimming and be like, wow, we got out of that. We found a beach. We, handled it. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go do a open water swim. Like, right now I'm feeling confident. I'm going to choose to take that experience and use it in a positive way.
Now that's amazing. You follow through with those experiences. Sometimes a negative experience is not so negative, and a positive one can come out of it. That's great. I hope you do well. You said it's 2 miles?
It's just under 2 miles, I believe. Yeah.
I mean, that's 3,200 meters. That's a lot. So I wish you all the luck in the world. I think that you're going to do, I mean, we know you're going to do great. You've been swimming forever. But is this your first time doing open water?
I did a triathlon like randomly in Hawaii when like early 20s. It was a while ago. So yeah, this is my first, I'd say. I mean, that counts, but
oh no, the triathlon definitely counts. And
it was a while ago.
I mean, who are you talking to? I mean, I'm all about that. Hawaii, that must have been fun though. That must have been a great time.
Yeah, it was fun.
So,
but yeah, I like to think of this as like, how do we look back on our experiences and how are we explaining them? Like, how are you explaining the events that you've been through?
That would take a long time. For me. So, but yeah, no, I think that's great. So you are active on socials, right?
Yes, very much.
Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and do you have a YouTube channel?
Yes, and TikTok. Yeah, I wanted to make it easy, so it's all the same. Nicole Coaching G, all one word on every platform.
Great. Yeah. So I'm going to make sure that we link that in the show notes. And of course, NicoleCoachingG.com. And she's got a little website here and a place for you to go ahead and maybe you can book a quick 20-minute call with her. And if there's something that she can help you with as far as your, taking the next step in your life, if you're finding that it's hard, you've been through some things and you just want to take that next step, Nicole is the one that's going to help you out, so she's got a couple different programs out there. And I think that, she could go out and change your life. And if you go on to NicoleCoachingG.com, you'll see some awesome testimonials from some of her clients. So you got to take a look at that. And then as soon as you read those, you're going to want to talk to her. So, Nicole, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad. This was great.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, if you get a chance, love for you to, if you're on YouTube, to share it, to like it, subscribe if you want. If you're on Apple, if you're on Spotify or any of those other podcast platforms, if you can do us a favor and write a review. And you know what? If you don't like the content, tell me you don't like the content, and then give me an idea what you might like to see or hear. And if you've got any ideas for us, let us know. And feel free. I really don't mind whether the review is good or bad because it gives me feedback and how I can make the show better. So I would really appreciate that. So, but for the rest of you, we will see you in the next one. Well, that wraps up another episode of Life-Changing Challengers. I'm your host, Brad Minus, saying thank you for joining us on this journey of transformation. If today's stories inspired you, please take a moment to review, share, and follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more listeners and create an even bigger impact. Remember, every challenge is a chance to grow. Until next time, keep pushing, keep challenging, and never stop pursuing your extraordinary.